Welcome to the Inspired Choices TV show. I am your host, Christine McIver. We have a fabulous guest with us today. I'm so excited to share her with you, all of our viewers. Aideen T. Finnola is in the studio, and today we are talking about her journey and how absolutely amazing it has been. So I'm going to tell everybody a little bit about you, okay?
Perfect.
Okay. So Aideen T. Finnola is an empowerment coach, author, speaker, and radio show host. She is an unapologetic and empowered survivor of and thriver after physical, emotional, psychological, and religious abuse. As she was raised in a religious cult for the first 2 decades of her life and was then unexpectedly married to a closeted gay man for her life's next 2 decades, she has a lot of experience with varying degrees and expressions of untruth. These experiences have fueled her pursuit of truth to the point of a full-on passion, some may say obsession. Aideen has learned that above all, untruth is both unworkable and painful. Coming from the perspective that life, time, and space and the human experience are all perfect and good, she knows that the truth can only exist within ideas and experiences that are both workable and enjoyable. Aideen coaches her clients to find their own truth by investigating outside the conventional parameters of should and shouldn't, good and bad, right and wrong. She guides them instead to evaluate their experiences by questioning, is this working for me? Am I enjoying this? Aideen empowers people all over the world through her coaching, her memoir, My Exquisite Purple Life, her speaking, and her radio show. Her unwavering message is to look for guidance, truth, and answers within because it's all there inside. Now you can find Aideen at her website, aideentfinola.com, and this is her amazing book, My Exquisite Purple Life. It's a phenomenal book.
Thank you.
Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is so exciting to have you here. So Aideen and I met through an experience we both attended in New York City.
Right.
And through that, I invited Aidee to come and be on my radio show and share her experiences. And through that, I had the honor to actually get your book on audio and listen to your journey, which is mesmerizing.
Oh, thank you.
I literally could not stop listening and just wanted to always find those moments to listen. Aidee, you've had an incredibly curious journey.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say good or bad because I don't think that it has been, because here you are today in all your brilliance.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about your journey and actually what you experienced in your life. So you were born and raised in the U.S.
Yes.
Right? And where in the U.S. were you in the?
Well, I will use the names and dates and everything that are in the book. Legally, I needed to change some things and, to protect the identities of people.
Yes.
In the book in order to be able to tell my story. So I was born in Chicago, and then when I was 8 years old, my parents moved out to San Francisco to join a religious cult, ecumenical, evangelical, fundamentalist, charismatic, and I was raised Roman Catholic, and they sent me to a GARB, which is Greater Association of Regular Baptists, high school. So I have
all of that is a
religion.
lot.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, you want to talk about the difference between transubstantiation and consubstantiation? I got you.
You're our girl.
Once saved, always saved, eternal security, the tulip, all the rest of that. I have all
I
that
don't know
background.
anything. You're speaking Japanese to me.
Yeah, and that's fine because it really. It wasn't a positive experience for me, so.
So you were raised in this, and you call it a cult.
Yeah, it really was. And it's fascinating, Christine, because the people that I work with, so I work primarily coaching straight spouses and then also coaching people who are recovering from religious extremism.
Yes.
And it took me some time to find the right vocabulary to be able to connect with these clients because everyone who is in a cult does not know they're in a cult. Like, who would willingly? No one goes out there and is like, you know what? You know what I need in my life? Oh my gosh, I need to find a cult. Yes, that's what's lacking in my life. And the cult that I was raised in, we said we weren't a cult. We pointed to the Moonies and we pointed to the, Jim Jones and all the rest of that. We said they were a cult, but we weren't a cult. And so I have a tendency, I will define my experience that way and my group that way because I have that understanding. And this was probably about maybe 3 years ago, I connected with a woman and she was saying, well, it wasn't, she said, I grew up in this extreme religious group, and she goes, what wasn't a cult? And she starts telling me more about it, and I said, that sounds like a cult to me. And, no. And I just said to her, okay, well, maybe when you get a chance to be in front of your computer again or on your phone, you could Google what are the qualities or hallmarks or characteristics of a cult. The next morning, we were at a conference together, and the next morning we were, I saw her where we were getting coffee, and she goes, okay, so yeah, it was a cult.
Wow. Yeah. So you're not aware.
No.
Now, as a young woman, were you aware that you were in a cult?
Oh gosh, no, because that was the only world that I knew. I knew because it was a cult. We were isolated, not so extreme that there was a compound, but kind of one step in front of that. I grew up in a neighborhood where every house in the neighborhood was owned by cult members. So we didn't actually have a physical compound, but it was about as close as you could get. And I wasn't allowed to associate with anyone outside of the cult. And so that was my normal. I had no idea.
You had no idea.
Yeah.
Now, some of the things that you've shared in your book and you've shared with me is that you didn't watch TV.
No, we didn't own a TV.
You didn't listen to the radio?
No.
Except for the news, is that correct?
No, not even the news. My mother had a radio to listen and find out about the weather.
The weather,
And that
okay.
was it. We didn't get the newspaper. Of course, there was no internet back then. So.
Right, so you were missing that.
Yeah.
So today in your life, there's a lot of culture, like pop culture and so on, that you're not aware of.
Yeah, there's a chunk missing in my, well, and I don't know if I want to say missing, but it's different from the majority of my peers. For example, when Prince died, several years back,
yes,
I was aware, intellectually and academically, I understood that was a very significant event for the world and, music culture and everything. But it did not have the same impact for me personally because he wasn't a part of my experience.
He wasn't a part of your
part
experience.
of my history, the way that he was for everyone of my generation who grew up in the 80s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes.
I
Huge.
mean, some of it seeped in. I do know Purple Rain, and I do know, what is the one, I Would Die For You. I had a friend in high school who was so into Prince, and she taught me the hand motions, but I never, that whatever, die for you, or
I don't even know them, so it's all good. Well, that's really fascinating, your journey as to what took place in your life.
Yeah.
So at what point did you actually leave the cult?
I was in my early 20s, and 22, 23, because you don't leave overnight, And it's interesting because when you read the introduction in my bio, truth is I have such a passion for truth, for whatever that is, right? I have long ago walked away from the idea that there is the truth, as I was told in the cult. They had the truth. But my hallmarks for truth is that it's workable and it doesn't cause pain. It's enjoyable. It's a pleasant experience. And then it's true. And when I was in 22, 23, I have a very clear memory of the last cult prayer meeting that I went to. And I left the prayer meeting, and again, this was all I had known. This was my entire social world, everything. And I walked out to my car in the parking lot, and I remember looking up, and it was a nice blue sky with fluffy clouds. And I actually said out loud, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know I can't do this anymore.
And you were in your early 20s. Were you still living with your parents?
At that time, I had an apartment with a friend of mine who I had grown up with in the cult.
And was that person still very much in the cult as well?
Yes, she was. Now, she was a little bit behind me. She did leave, but about a year later.
Okay.
And that caused a little bit of tension for probably about 6 months, as I had reached the place where I wasn't going to go to any of the meetings anymore. And she was still, putting on her little, I called them like little house on the prairie dresses we used to wear.
Oh, Aidee, I can't even imagine you in that.
I know, nobody can. It's so funny. People meet me now and they're like,
really?
I cannot see that. And I pull out photos. I'm like, look. And
this is me.
Yeah.
So you leave the cult. At what point did you then get married?
Very quickly, actually. So my ex-husband was not raised in the cult, but he had been converted into the cult when he was at medical school. His older sister had joined the cult already when she was in undergrad at UCLA, and he came there for medical school, and she brought him in.
Okay.
So he was, but he just kind of sort of did a drive-by with the cult because he was in medical school and that occupied the majority of his time. And the cult was, like most cults, it was all-consuming. So he had meetings like five times a week, and he didn't get involved with that much of it, but enough to where our paths crossed, and we
connected.
Yeah, connected. I was going to say we fell in love. I fell in love.
You fell in love,
I fell in love.
He did not. So you come to find out years later, after the marriage, that he is a closeted gay man.
Yes. Yeah.
And which leads you on another journey.
Right.
Which leads you down some very, very interesting roads.
Yeah.
And brings you to where we are today.
Yeah.
I don't think we have enough time to go through everything today because there is so much that I want to ask you. We're going to go for a quick break.
Okay.
And when we get back, I really want to dive into the next segment, of the marriage and so on, and then where you are with all of this now.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, everyone, stay tuned. We'll be back with Aideen T. Finnola right after our break. Have you thought about bringing your voice to the world? Are you looking to have a global platform that you can connect with? At Inspired Choices Network, we create an opportunity for you to bring your voice each and every week to a global platform. We support you, we train you, we bring your podcast out to more than 50 platforms. We are a network of building a community where we're bringing conscious voices to the world. If you're looking to have more of an opportunity, if you're looking to bring what you know to the world, do connect with us. You can contact us at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com, or you can send an email to becomingahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. We'll have a conversation and we'll show you what truly is possible. Welcome back, everyone. Today we have Aideen T. Finnola in the studio, and we're talking about her life, and most especially her exquisite purple life. Okay, so before break, you took us through your journey of being in the cult and leaving the cult, and then you met your husband, you got married, you had 2 children with your husband.
Yeah.
And during that time, tell us about you. What were you doing in that? What was happening with you?
Well, I want to start with kind of the nature of our marriage and how we came together or whatever. Because of the parameters of the cult, I wasn't allowed to date anyone. So dating was considered to be for the purpose of getting married only, as it is so often in these conservative, extreme religious groups. So my ex-husband was the first man that I ever went on a date with. I was 22 years old when we met. I was 23 when we got married.
Wow.
And I'd never gone on a date. I'd never held hands with a man. I'd never kissed a man. I'd never done anything with a man. And per his urgings or on his insistence, we remained virgins until our wedding night. So coming into this marriage, I had little or no knowledge or awareness or anything. And of course I had been taught that homosexual people, LGBTQ people, we didn't have that, that vocabulary back then, but that was all a perversion, that was a sin, they were vile in God's sight. And I was told it was a choice, no, of course no one's born this way. And I also thought I didn't know any LGBTQ people. I knew plenty of them. I look back and I realized, yes, there were plenty of lesbian and gay men and women in the cult, but they were all closeted, So
because what would have happened to them?
Right. Well, they would have been kicked out, and or worse, they would have been sent to conversion therapy. That is what, they would have tried to pray the gay away, which in my opinion that's inhumane. And I feel like if you had to choose between those two, the lesser of the two evils would have been to get kicked out.
So you've married this man, you've had no experience or reference points for being in a relationship and what a relationship is to look like. What occurred for you during the relationship, even just with yourself?
Yeah, so, I was so confused because I had been raised I'd been taught that men were these lustful beings and that they were prone to the sin of lust and, they were at the mercy of their sex drive. And I married this man who doesn't want to touch me, doesn't want to see me naked, he doesn't want to sit on the couch next to me. And not having any understanding of these greater, dynamics of human sexuality, I just assumed it was me. I assumed it was my fault. And I went searching, like, I don't know, my hair is too red, my skin is too white, my body is too fat, or my bust is too big, or I didn't know. I was like, the house isn't clean enough, Now I know.
Right.
None of that's a problem.
As in your book, you talk about you really went down a road of self-destruction.
And I definitely did, yes. And it, so my parents were very abusive. And then I come into this marriage, and my husband, not wanting to be truthful himself and say, listen, it's not you, it's that I'm not into women, he then did turn on me with a lot of criticism and said, oh, yes, it is because you still have the 20 pounds of baby weight. It is because the house isn't clean. And so I internalized so much of that negativity. Oh my gosh,
of course.
Yeah. And I was, one of the work that I do with my clients and in the programs that I offer, I talk about the inner critic and how to work with the inner critic, identify and manage it. And at that time in my life, I said that I didn't have an inner critic, I had an inner terrorist.
Right.
And I had this virtual character inside of me that was the abuse. It would have been, on a par with the worst domestic violence you can imagine. Inside me, I was just beating myself up horribly. And so by my middle 30s, I ended up in a really, really black hole.
Wow.
I was very clinically depressed. I was on a very high dose of antidepressants because I was very suicidal. I was a pack-a-day smoker. I was a fairly heavy drinker. I like to refer to myself as a Taco Bellitarian.
Taco Bellitarian?
Because I wasn't vegetarian.
Oh.
I was a Taco Bellitarian.
Oh, you're hilarious.
Because that was my favorite junk food, and I drank copious amounts of coffee, and, I was trying.
Everything to numb yourself.
To numb, but I was also, I was trying, as twisted as this sounds, I was actually trying to keep myself alive. I was so incredibly depressed, and I look at it now in the big picture, and I'm not excusing any of these, this abuse self-abuse, but I was drawn towards uppers, caffeine and nicotine, and, the processed foods and all that, because I was so down and I was so low.
Right.
And I was trying to, help myself.
Right.
I would start my day with 2 16-ounce cups of coffee and about a half a dozen cigarettes.
Wow.
That's a lot of uppers.
That's a lot.
And that did not make me feel like, yeah, I can face my day. It made me feel like maybe I won't die today.
Wow.
Maybe I won't take my life today.
Aideen, you have been through such a journey, and today you're divorced. Mm-hmm. Your daughters are thriving.
Yes.
You're thriving. You have a thriving business.
Yeah.
You are touching the world with your journey and what I have not experienced some of the things that you've experienced that you shared in the book, I was glued to the book because not only did you share a riveting story of triumph and struggles, but you share so much that anyone, I believe, can identify with that has any challenges. You have so many tools that you are talking to us about and what we can look at, and really you unpack so much of that inner critic that it's such a gift, and I love that about it. So I'm telling everybody about the book. I mean, they don't need to be have trying to come out of a religious cult, or having been married to a closeted gay man. It's an amazing journey. You are now, you have a radio show with us on the Inspired Choices Network, and I love the name that you chose, In Pursuit of Truth. Tell us, if you can, we've just got a few minutes left, tell us what you can, what does In Pursuit of Truth mean for you?
Well, it, like I said, and like you introduced, truth has been an overriding theme in my life, and my own pursuit of truth. What is truth? And one of the things, when I first started to try and play around with the title, I loved, the word truth came to me right away, and I loved it, and I thought, yes. But then the early variations to me, I think it was like, this is truth, or truth straight up, or something like that. And that felt too authoritative, like, oh, I have the truth, and I'm going to,
You are the answer now.
Yeah. And if I know anything, that I know is not true, right? like we cannot know, because we don't have, this is something I talk about a lot, is that we don't have omniscience available to us in time and space with our human bodies, our human brains. So we cannot know everything, we just don't.
Yes.
And so I don't think, if you're not capable of gathering all the information, then you're also not qualified to make an authoritative proclamation or declaration. And so when that title, In Pursuit of Truth, came to me, I thought, oh, that's perfect, because that has been my life for half a century now. I believe will be for another half a century.
Yes.
And it's also the journey that I help facilitate with my clients. Whether they are straight spouses, whether they're coming out of a religious cult, whether, no matter what, or if they're just trying to figure out what do they want to do in their lives and what's true for them, that's what I help to facilitate.
That's
and
wonderful.
That's what I try to do in my radio show is, hey, let's look at the millions of different topics and things that we struggle with and that we puzzle out, and let's go on a pursuit of truth, in that area.
For what works.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. And I love the line here at the bottom of your book. Insights from a woman who never should have made it, but did.
Yeah.
When you read through the book and you listen, because I did get it on audio, which was just fabulous to listen to your voice and to connect with your journey through your energies in the way you speak.
Yeah.
It really is fascinating to hear everything that you have come through. And to know that not only are you on the other side of it, but now you're a leader in the world, empowering and guiding and inspiring other people. You're a gift in the world. I'm so grateful that we connected through a very interesting dance of fate. And I really appreciate what you bring to the world.
Thank you.
And I know that your future is really amazing. I do know that, because you keep choosing, and you keep choosing, and I think that that's one of the capacities, the traits of someone who really is going to move beyond anything, is they keep choosing.
Yeah, and I still do all of the work that I help my clients to do. I do it in myself, and long ago I let go of the idea that I was ever going to arrive. I mean, who knows, maybe on my deathbed I'll be like, oh my gosh, look at that, I did arrive.
I did, after all that.
But yeah, it's a constant journey, and it's a constant,
it's beautiful.
And when what I have suffered can help someone else, the way that I say it is, it sanctifies my suffering.
Nice.
Like it cleans that wound, it cleans, yuckiness of what I went through. It's like, oh,
right.
And it's true. Like, I do work with people who have different experiences from me, because, and one of the things I say is that all of our stories are exactly the same, only different. You know,
I love that. That is so great. That's fabulous.
Like you, we don't have those two main experiences in common, and yet you found so much in my memoir.
Yes.
You know, that you could relate to and draw from, and
Absolutely.
you know, help you and all that.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Listen, everyone, you need to get this book. You need to connect with Aideen and listen to it on audio. It's just beautiful. You can definitely go to her website, aideentfinnola.com, to learn more. You can check out her radio show on the Inspired Choices Network, In Pursuit of Truth. Aideen, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was so lovely to have you.
It's been a pleasure.
Look forward to more of your creations.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you so much for checking us out today. Be sure and come back next week, where we will have another inspiring guest in the studio. Remember, until then, you can always make another choice. Bye for now.